You've been praying, waiting and working hard, but still the blessings seem to be just out of reach. You've asked, why hasn't it come yet? Am I doing something wrong? What if I told you that the delay isn't a denial, but rather a divine preparation? There are signs, unmistakable signs, that God is setting you up to receive what you've been asking for. But these signs won't always look like what you expect. Sometimes they may seem like challenges or obstacles. But in reality, God is positioning you, shaping you, and strengthening you for the blessings that are about to unfold. The first sign that God is preparing you is increased discomfort and disruption. Second sign is a season of isolation or waiting. Third sign is unsettling change in your environment. Fourth sign is heightened sense of responsibility. And a sign is a sudden shift in perspective or vision. When you're in the midst of discomfort and disruption, it's easy to believe that something has gone wrong. You start asking yourself, what have I done wrong? Why is everything falling apart? Why does it feel like everything that I once knew is changing and I can't seem to find my footing? But here's the truth. Sometimes the very discomfort you are experiencing is a sign that God is preparing you for something greater. In the book of James, we are reminded that trials and tests are not meant to break us, but to develop perseverance. It says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. James 1:2-3. The discomfort you're feeling is not a punishment, but a process of preparation. God uses discomfort to stretch you, to mold you, and to strengthen you. He's taking you through a season where He's preparing your character to handle the blessing that is about to come your way. Think about the way gold is refined. Gold doesn't become pure without going through intense heat. It's heated until all the impurities rise to the surface where they can be removed. Similarly, God is refining you. He is exposing areas of your life, your thoughts, your behavior, your priorities that need to be purified before He can release your blessing. If you want to carry the weight of a great blessing, you must first be shaped and molded to bear it. The discomfort you feel is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of God's refinement. Let's also look at the example of Joseph. Joseph had a dream, a vision of greatness, of ruling and leading, yet his journey to that destiny was filled with betrayal, rejection, false accusations, and imprisonment. His life was anything but comfortable. But through all the discomfort and disruption, God was preparing him to manage a nation. Joseph's blessing didn't come easily, but he had to go through the process to be ready for it. In the same way, God might be allowing disruption in your life to prepare you for the greatness He has in store. And this is not just a biblical concept. Think about how athletes train. They don't just wake up one day and perform at the highest level. No, they go through rigorous training, long hours of discomfort, sweat, and sometimes even pain. But every step, every challenge they face builds them up and prepares them for the victory that is coming. This principle applies to our spiritual lives as well. The challenges, the discomfort, the disruptions, they're all part of the training. When you experience discomfort, don't see it as something that's happening to you. See it as something that's happening for you. What if God is using the current disruptions in your life to clear the path for something greater? What if in this season of discomfort, God is asking you to trust Him more deeply, to lean on Him more fully, and to surrender your plans for His purpose? As you experience these disruptions, ask yourself, what is God trying to teach me right now? What is He preparing me for? What areas of my life need to be refined so I can carry the blessings He's about to pour out? God doesn't waste any season. no matter how uncomfortable it may feel. Every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Every setback, a setup for a comeback. And while the discomfort may not feel good in the moment, remember, it's a sign of preparation, not rejection. God is preparing you for the blessings you've prayed for. But first, He's preparing you to handle them with grace, strength, and wisdom. A season of isolation or waiting can often feel like the hardest of all. It's the time when everything seems to be on pause. People may come and go. Your circumstances may seem stagnant, and it can feel like you're stuck in a place where nothing is moving forward. You might even begin to wonder if your prayers are being heard. But in reality, this season is not wasted time. It is a strategic period of preparation. In this quiet waiting, God is doing a deeper work within you, molding you in ways you cannot yet see. Consider the story of David. Before he became the king of Israel, David spent years in isolation, tending sheep and living in the wilderness. At the time, it must have seemed like nothing more than a mundane, unimportant job. Yet, it was in those years of isolation that David's character was formed. God was teaching him how to lead, how to trust, and how to worship with a pure heart. Even in his solitude, David's relationship with God deepened. The wilderness became a place where his faith was refined, where his reliance on God grew, and where his skill as a leader was developed. In our own lives, the waiting period often feels uncomfortable. We may not understand why doors aren't opening, why opportunities seem distant, or why God is asking us to wait. But think about it this way. God is never idle in our lives, even when we feel like we are waiting. Just as a farmer doesn't plant seeds and then immediately harvest them, God is planting something in you that will take time to grow. Waiting is not a time of inactivity. It's a time of cultivation. We can learn a lot from the process of seed planting. A seed doesn't grow overnight. There's a period of quiet, unseen growth beneath the surface. The roots are being established. The seed is being nourished by the soil, and it's being prepared to sprout when the time is right. In the same way, when we feel like nothing is happening, God may be working in the unseen areas of our lives. I think He's developing our roots, our character, our faith, our endurance, so that when the time for growth comes, we are ready to stand firm. This season of waiting also brings a deeper awareness of our dependence on God. We begin to realize that we don't have control over the timing of the blessings or opportunities that we desire, but in this realization comes an opportunity for deeper surrender. Just like the Israelites were forced to wait in the desert before entering the promised land, we too face seasons of waiting that teach us to trust God more completely. God is showing us that our plans are not always His plans, and His timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't align with our own expectations. And it's in these moments of waiting that God often removes distractions from our lives. People, situations, and even our own busyness can distract us from what God is doing. During seasons of waiting, He often draws us aside to give us the time and space to focus on Him. You may find yourself facing a period of solitude because God wants to deepen your intimacy with Him. Just like Jesus withdrew to quiet places to pray, God calls us to moments of silence and solitude where we can hear His voice more clearly. In a world that tells us to move fast, to always be busy, and to have everything figured out, waiting can feel counterintuitive. But God works in seasons, and each season has a purpose. Have you considered that this waiting period might be a divine setup? Could it be that God is preparing your heart, aligning your circumstances, and positioning the right people at the right time? What if He's asking you to trust Him in the waiting, to lean on Him more fully, and to embrace this season as part of His greater plan for your life? The waiting is never wasted. It's a place where God teaches us to rely on Him, to refine our vision, and to build the strength we need for what lies ahead. It is in the waiting that we learn patience, perseverance, and how to hold on to God's promises, even when everything around us seems uncertain. Have you ever experienced a time when everything around you began to change? Relationships shifted, your environment felt unfamiliar, and the very things that once brought you comfort suddenly seemed unsettled. It can be disorienting, even overwhelming. But what if these changes were not a sign of something going wrong, but rather a signal that God is orchestrating a greater plan? Change comes as part of the preparation process, and though it may be uncomfortable, it's often necessary for the blessing God wants to pour into your life. In the Bible, we see numerous instances of God calling his people to leave what they knew in order to step into something greater. Take, for example, the story of Abraham. When God called Abraham to leave his homeland, everything familiar to him, his family, his surroundings, his comfort, was disrupted. God said, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you." Genesis 12:1. It wasn't just a change of location. It was a radical shift in Abraham's entire life. But that change was not an arbitrary move. It was part of God's plan to make him the father of many nations. We see the same principle in our own lives. Sometimes God allows changes in our environment to position us for the blessing he has prepared. These shifts may not make sense at first. They may come without warning and seem inconvenient or even disruptive. But remember this: God is always at work, even when the change seems unsettling. Think about how seasons change in nature. The trees may seem barren in winter, the ground may seem dry and lifeless, yet it is in this quiet, cold season that the groundwork is being laid for new growth in the spring. Without the seasons of transition, the new life would never have a chance to grow. Similarly, in our lives, the changes in our environment, whether it's a new job, a move to a different city, a shift in relationships, are preparing the ground for something new. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also the space where growth occurs. Consider the process of a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. The caterpillar undergoes a complete transformation, and during this process, it seems as though everything is falling apart. But when the butterfly emerges, it has been restructured and equipped to fly. Sometimes the changes in our lives feel like a breaking down or an unraveling, but just as the butterfly must go through the struggle of breaking out of its cocoon to gain its wings, you might be going through a similar process of preparation for something greater. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you felt uncomfortable with the changes around you? Did you see them as obstacles, or did you begin to ask God what he was doing through them? Could it be that he is moving things around you to position you for something new? What if this unsettling change in your environment is God's way of shifting your perspective and preparing you for the blessings you've been asking for? Change can also disrupt our comfort zones. We get used to the familiar, to what feels safe and predictable. But God is not always interested in keeping us comfortable. He's interested in transforming us. Think about how God called Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Moses was living a quiet life, tending sheep, when God called him to confront Pharaoh and lead a nation to freedom. It was a monumental shift in his life. He went from a shepherd to a deliverer. Moses was not the same man after that change. And the same is true for you. When God moves you from one place to another, whether physically, emotionally, or spiritually, he is not just changing your environment, he is changing you. In the same way, we should not fear changes in our environment. These disruptions, these shifts are signs that God is positioning us. He is orchestrating our steps, and though the path may not always be clear, we can trust that He is leading us. Each change, each disruption is not a setback, it is an opportunity for God to show us something new. What if instead of resisting the changes around you, you began to embrace them as part of God's preparation for your future? What areas in your life are shifting? How are you responding to those changes? Are you allowing God to use them to move you forward, or are you resisting the very thing that could be positioning you for greater blessings? Changes may be uncomfortable, but they're often the very means by which God positions us for what He has prepared. As we move through life, we often desire blessings without fully considering the responsibility that comes with them. The truth is, the greater the blessing, the greater the responsibility. When you find that God is increasing your sense of responsibility, it's a sign that He is preparing you to receive more. Responsibility is not a burden. It is an invitation to step into a larger role in God's plan for your life. God's blessings come with a call to steward them well, to lead effectively, and to influence those around us. In the Bible, we see how responsibility is tied to blessing. Think about the parable of the talents in Matthew 25:14-30. The master gave 3 servants different amounts of talents according to their abilities. The servant who was given 5 talents doubled them. The one who was given 2 talents also doubled his, but the one given 1 talent buried it. The master rewarded the first 2 servants, saying, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And to the one who did increase his talent, the master took it away. The principle here is clear. With great responsibility comes great opportunity for blessing. The servants who took on the responsibility of multiplying what they were given were trusted with more. Think about how responsibility works in the natural world. When a person is given more authority, whether at work or in leadership, they often find themselves overseeing larger projects, managing teams, or making more impactful decisions. Their role has expanded because they've proven they can handle the responsibilities given to them. In the same way, when God increases your responsibility, He's showing you that you've grown in your capacity to handle greater blessing. He is preparing you for something bigger, and He is trusting you with more. But this isn't always easy. Increasing responsibility means you may need to step up in ways that stretch you. It may require sacrifices, new disciplines, and learning. It means your time and energy will be invested in things that are bigger than your personal desires. And often, when we find that God is increasing our responsibility, it can feel overwhelming at first. You may think, why me? Am I really ready for this? But this increase in responsibility isn't about what you can do on your own. It's about what God can do through you. He's giving you more, not because of your own strength, but because He knows you can rely on Him. Take the example of Nehemiah. He was a cupbearer to the king, a position that seemed far removed from leadership, but when Nehemiah heard about the broken walls of Jerusalem, God stirred his heart to take on a great responsibility, rebuilding the walls. This was not an easy task. It required leadership, courage, resources, and vision. But Nehemiah took on the responsibility because he knew it was a call from God. They were to step up, trusting that God would provide the wisdom and strength needed to complete the task. And indeed, God did. Nehemiah's obedience to the responsibility God gave him led to the restoration of Jerusalem. The greater the responsibility he took on, the more God entrusted him with. Increasing responsibility also reveals what is truly in your heart. How you respond to greater responsibility often reveals your maturity and commitment. Are you faithful in the small things? Are you willing to serve even when it's inconvenient or challenging? These questions are key to understanding how God sees your readiness for greater blessings. If you can handle the responsibility of today, God will entrust you with even more tomorrow. Reflect on this. What responsibilities are you currently facing that you may have been overlooking or even resisting? Could it be that God is preparing you for something greater and He's using the responsibilities in your life to stretch you? What if God is using these moments to see if you will be faithful with what He has already entrusted you with before He opens the doors for more? When you start to sense a growing sense of responsibility in your life, don't shrink back. Instead, embrace it as a sign that God is preparing you to carry greater blessings. Are you ready to step up? Are you willing to carry the weight of the responsibilities God is giving you, knowing that He will equip you every step of the way? The greater the responsibility, the greater the impact you can have, and the more God will bless you to be a blessing to others. A sudden shift in perspective or vision can be both exhilarating and unsettling. You may have been seeing your life, your work, or your purpose in one way for so long, only to find that God suddenly opens your eyes to a broader, deeper understanding. It's like suddenly seeing a bigger picture after being focused on a single piece for years. When this shift happens, it's not a random occurrence. It's often a sign that God is preparing you to step into a new season of blessing. The vision you had before may have been good, but the vision He's giving you now is greater and more aligned with His ultimate purpose for your life. Take the example of the Apostle Paul. Before his encounter with Jesus on the road to Damascus, Paul's vision of life was completely different. He saw himself as a Pharisee, a religious leader committed to persecuting Christians. But after his life-changing encounter with Christ, his entire perspective shifted. His vision for his life went from destroying the church to building it up. Paul's transformation wasn't just about his salvation, it was about a radical shift in how he saw the world and his purpose in it. In that moment, God gave him a new vision, a vision that would lead him to plant churches, write letters that would become scripture, and spread the gospel to the Gentiles. That's how this kind of shift in perspective often happens when God is preparing you for something bigger than you've ever imagined. You might be used to thinking in small terms, but God is calling you to think bigger. Maybe you've always been focused on survival, getting through the day, just trying to make ends meet. But what if God is shifting your vision from surviving to thriving? What if He's showing you that you are not just called to get by, but to prosper and make a lasting impact on those around you? The Bible tells us in Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. Vision is essential for progress. Without a clear vision, you lack direction. Without direction, it's impossible to reach your destination. But when God opens your eyes to a new perspective, it is as if He is giving you a roadmap for your future, showing you the next steps you need to take to fulfill your purpose. When your vision aligns with His, it no longer becomes about what you want, but about what He wants to do through you. Think about how a person's dreams often evolve as they mature. A child may dream of being an astronaut, then later in life, they may dream of becoming a doctor, an entrepreneur, or a teacher. Their vision grows as they grow, as their understanding of their abilities, their surroundings, and their calling expands. In the same way, God sometimes takes us through a process of maturity, during which He broadens our perspective. The dreams we once held may no longer be enough for what He has in mind. It's like He's opening our eyes to a new horizon, one that requires more faith, more trust, and a willingness to embrace the unknown. Have you ever felt that tug, that stirring in your heart, where you began to sense that your current vision was too small for the dreams God had for you? Maybe you've been asking, God, is there more for me? And perhaps in the quiet moments, you've begun to feel that new vision rising up inside you. It may come as a sudden insight, a quiet whisper, or a deep burden for a cause you never cared about before. This is God expanding your vision, stretching you to see a bigger picture. This shift in vision also brings a shift in priorities. When your perspective changes, the things you once thought were important might fade into the background, while new goals and pursuits take center stage. You might find yourself reevaluating your relationships, your work, and your daily choices. What seemed important yesterday might no longer hold the same weight. God calling you to align your life with His greater purpose for you, moving beyond the things that only serve your personal comfort and stepping into the things that will fulfill His plan for your life. Is there something in your life that you've been holding on to because it's comfortable or familiar? Are you willing to release it and embrace the bigger vision God is offering you? It may feel scary, and you may not know exactly what that future looks like, but trust that God is opening your eyes for a reason. He's preparing you for a new season. The change in vision may be unsettling at first, but it is part of the divine process of preparing you for the blessings He has in store. Your future is far greater than you can imagine. And this shift in perspective is part of His way of opening your heart and mind to receive all that He has planned. As we reflect on these signs that God is preparing us to receive blessings, remember that every season, whether it's discomfort, waiting, disruption, increased responsibility, or a shift in vision, is part of His divine plan to mold and shape us. Each moment of challenge is an opportunity for growth, and every change is a stepping stone toward the greatness He has in store for you. Trust that God is at work even when the journey doesn't make sense. And hold on to the belief that He is preparing you for something far greater than you could ever imagine. As you step into the next phase of your journey, embrace the process with faith and patience. Keep your eyes on the promises God has given you and trust that He will equip you with everything you need to walk in His purpose. You are not alone. He is with you every step of the way. Thank you for allowing me to share this message with you. I wish you all the best as you walk confidently in the path God has set before you. May His blessings overflow in your life, and may you always be prepared to receive what He has prepared for you. Good luck, and may you experience the fullness of His grace and favor.